From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, my friends. I am Keith Allen and proudly welcoming you to this Friday's edition of For the People. On a May the 12th, 2017, we have a big show lined up for you. And we're going to start off with some Bay Area news because, you know, once in a while, looking at your local newspaper, you can find some interesting things. So I have something that comes to my phone called The Patch, but then I decided to look over at Fox 13, our local Fox affiliate, which is pretty much, I could throw a rock at, the Fox Tower is what we call it. They have a big golf ball on West Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa. So my studios are like perpendicular. There's a good word for you. And a couple stories that they're running with, I thought we would talk about it a little bit to kind of start things out here on a Friday. But in Port Richey, almost 400 students were absent from the R.B. Stewart Middle School, which basically is in Zephyr Hills. And why? Because there's threats made on social media, according to the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. And it's one of these three schools that have been the subject of online threats in the past week. And this is according to Sheriff Chris Noko, and he was talking earlier at a press conference. And folks, this stuff is dangerous. And I tell you, if they find the kids or adults or whoever is making these threats to the kids, but the school's not taking any chances, which is a good thing. Glad that they're just deciding they're not to attend the school, but it's a shame because it cuts into, you know, the school days. And as you know, there are not too many days until summer break kicks in. And it's a lot of school districts, I don't know about your area, folks, but they're trying to cut it a little bit shorter. And this is just very sad for the kids. But this is a type of terrorism. You can terrorize on the internet. You can say all sorts of things, and whether it's credible or it's not credible, the police, they take it serious. And this has been an ongoing saga, unfortunately, according to the sheriff, for these schools. There's a lot of magnet schools here in the Bay Area, and there's magnet schools all over the United States. But, it affects 400 students. That's a good chunk. From the R.B. Stewart Middle School in Zephyr Hills. Now, the first happened at John Lawn Middle School. There's in Wesley Chapel. And according to this one report, they say 2 students were arrested accused of trying to recruit other students to shoot up the school. And Thursday morning in Port Richey, a student at Ringwood High School was arrested for allegedly posting a shootout threat online. Investigators are interviewing 2 students for R.B. Stewart Middle School after rumors were found circulating online about possible plans of school violence. Sad, but this has become a norm across the country, where there's a few of them that will sit on their computers cooking this stuff up. But there are students that are serious that want to go ahead and shoot up schools, and we've seen a number of shootings across the country, as you know, that have taken way too many lives. But this is a very scary thing. When you got your kids in school, you drop them off at work, drop them off, you go back home, and sometimes you just don't know what to expect. But if there is a credible threat, hopefully the police take it serious, because there's a lot of loose cannons out there. And I will tell you, I believe that a lot of these video games, that a lot of these kids, Minecraft or all that stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, and there's just a myriad of really violent, twisted, realistic games that people spend not hour on, but hours, sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours at a time just killing. Witnessing killing after killing after killing after killing, and they rack up points, and it becomes cool. And a lot of, it's called gaming, obviously, and it's very popular, and it becomes more real all the time. Realism. They're really trying to take it to whole nother levels where this virtual reality will become a reality in our lifetime, folks. Where you'll put on these goggles, if you will, and you'll feel like you're there. You can already witness that. What is it, a Disney ride? Where you just kind of, you think you're in a safari and you're kind of riding. You're just sitting in this chair, and these cameras are angled at the right angles and give you this 360 view when you get wind coming at you, and it's virtual. I mean, really, your brain really feels like you're there, but you're just witnessing video. But it's happening, but it desensitizes kids. They see this in an early age, and it does something to the brain. Images. Seeing it over and over and over again. And then propaganda on top of it on the internet. Listen, everybody's kind of wired a little different. You say, I would never do that. I play those games and I know the difference between reality and virtual, and I would never, ever do that. But you see this stuff early, it does something to the brain. And it already is proven that the news desensitizes people as well. That's why disconnecting, I really have to look at the news. I have to ingest the news to figure out how I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. But it does have an effect on you. Exercise, for me, burns off a lot of those stresses, and it's a healthy way to kind of get rid of it. And I would recommend it to anybody, especially with the weather a lot warmer here. So I'm still on the website, and then I learned of another story up the road here in Brooksville, and police are talking about the husband of a Hernando County private school principal that was preying upon foreign exchange students. And his name, Ruth McAllister, who they say is also Hernando Christian Academy staff member, faces several charges of sexual battery. It was back in April 29th when police in Brooksville got a tip, thank God for it, about sex crimes at McAllister home on Kappelman Loop. The principal's husband, folks, accused of raping exchange students. Cute. Not the first time, and probably won't be the last time. But I tell you what, and I know for some that are religious, and I know in Catholic, and I say this, but, I think Old Sparky, that's what we call it in Florida. At least they called it that back in the 50s, and I wasn't born then. But if you've seen The Green Mile, with Tom Hanks, that's what they called it, Old Sparky. People that do these such crimes, sex crimes, to me, they deserve to be cooked because it leaves a scar on the soul. It's the worst crime, worst violation, the worst thing, and a lot of these things are non-reported. People don't talk about it. People don't want to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it because, believe it or not, I had a personal experience with it. Not as bad as many of these students from this private school that I attended. But, I was thinking about it. Do I share something like this? But why not? And you can find news stories about this story that I'm talking about on the internet. I attended back in the 80s, which we would call a finishing school. I wasn't a bad kid, but my parents wanted to put me through private school. And so I attended a school called Chartwell Manor in Mendham, New Jersey. If you know anything about Mendham, New Jersey, very, upper class. You got to have money to live there, okay? So the school, beautiful. It was ran by a guy named Michael Lynch and his wife, Judy Lynch. And they were English, from England. And they ran it, suit and tie. You had to call him sir, the headmaster. But the headmaster, he liked little boys. He liked to give them spankings naked. And I got a couple spankings. And he liked to hold on to something when he was spanking you. All right, so I've said enough. It could have been a lot worse for me, and luckily it was not, but I reported it. But sadly, because I voiced my discontentment about the school, sadly, my parents did not receive the message too well. And so Michael Lynch, the headmaster, we called him sir, called my dad in to give me a spanking. He wasn't too keen on giving me spankings, and it wasn't much of one, but he did. I just kind of pretended that it really hurt. Well, it didn't. But it hurt my feelings a lot because I was telling the truth. But, I did tell him how much I did not like the school, and he just thought, some teenagers do make up things. But it wasn't for years later, that there was just too many of these going into the sheriff's department in Mendham about this guy that was doing things, and some of the scathing reports about what he did to teenagers and to young boys. It was just atrocious. So the minor thing that he did was just that, but that was disturbing enough. Trust me. But then when I learned what he did to other boys, what he had him, the other boys do to him, yeah, let your imagination. You can look it up, Chartwell Manor School, Mendham, New Jersey, in the 70s and 80s. But long story short, they got him for these sex crimes, and the school ended up closing many, many years later. Many years later. And God knows how many hundreds of boys he abused through the years. It was a lot. But he ended up becoming a counselor in Chester, New Jersey, and molested a bunch of other people. And I guess he went back to England or something like that, and they extradited him back, and then he ended up passing away at old age, in his 80s or something, upper 80s. But what a pervert, what a gross guy. But, and I am certain that there were other parents that probably had the same deal where their kids would try to report it. And their parents didn't take it because they didn't like the school. It was very strict. It was very strict. There were portions of the program that I liked. There were good kids there from all over the United States, kind of like that, getting to know different people, different places. That was great, but that was and he liked to take showers with everybody. A huge shower room. It was odd. It was just oddball. And then skinny dipping and, just odd stuff. But then, years later, I pointed it out to my mother about what had taken place there when I was there, and they apologized and said, that they're really sorry, but they swore, that I was making it up, and I wasn't grateful because of the amount of money that it actually cost to go there. And, I forgave them, but I thought to myself, wow, after learning what the other kids experienced, I was so lucky. So lucky. And that was bad enough, and having to tell my parents this. But, folks, be careful. Be careful with kids, your kids, specifically with adults. Be careful with them, with who you leave them with. At the teenagers, whatever, you don't know. And here's the kicker. A lot of the students would never say a word to anybody because they were so ashamed, so embarrassed about it.